Welcome to the Breakfast Leadership Show, where we interview global thought leaders on business, leadership, and life. Here's your host, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, Michael Levitt.
Welcome back. I've got Saksham Sharda on the line. Sak, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am great. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So share with the audience a little bit about you, Outgrow, and all the fun stuff you get to do.
So I'm the creative director and CIO, which is the chief information officer at outgrow.co. So basically, if you want to ask anything about what the software does or what our goals are in the future, I'm your person and I can tell you. So what Outgrow is, in short, is it's a no-code tool that allows you to make applets and widgets for your websites, like, quizzes or estimators, recommendations, chatbots, any of this you can build very easily using Outgrow's no-code builder that also has 1,000 templates that that are spread across 21 different industries that anyone can just easily customize in 2 minutes. So that's what Outgrow does.
It's amazing stuff that you guys are doing because I remember using the internet when it first started being widely used and with AOL and CompuServe to web browsers and Internet Explorer and Netscape and all that stuff. So I've seen websites go from very static, flat, informational types of things to engaging things where not only is there information being provided, but you're also being informed and educated and entertained is a way. So, what prompted you guys to do this, to get in this kind of work and create, the awesome stuff that Outgrow does?
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because it was an idea that actually came along. Our founders thought of that idea because originally they had another company that would help people find out how much it costs to make an app. That would help people actually build an app that they could put on the App Store or the Play Store, et cetera, et cetera. And then what happened was to promote this company, they made a simple calculator that would ask a couple of questions to the user, like, how many pages does your app need to have? Do you want to put it on the App Store or do you want to put it on the Play Store, et cetera, et cetera? And where do you want to have your team of developers? And based on the answers to these questions, they would recommend a certain price tag, like, okay, it's going to cost you so much money to get your app built. And this was in the 2000s, in the noughties, when, the iPhone had just been launched and, the smartphone game was just beginning and everyone had a crazy idea for like a crazy app, right? So it was the apps boom. And so they'd made this calculator that would let anyone know, anyone who's working in any particular industry, if they had an idea for an app, they went to that calculator to find it out, how much it's going to cost. And so what happened was over time in the 2000s, that calculator became the go-to place in the internet for finding out how much it costs to build an app. And that is how our founders got the idea, okay, this calculator is performing so well, it's giving us so many leads. Maybe what we can do is help other businesses make similar calculators and quizzes without knowing how to code. So that's how the idea for Outgrow came along.
It always starts with just a conversation and a spark of an idea. And yes, app development is pretty, intense, and, especially with all of the rules that Apple has. And I know that, Google has, some rules as well, and they get a little bit tighter. But I know Apple, for example, is, really challenging as far as building a lot of things. So being able to, utilize your skill set to help with that, but not only that, but just with website development and interactive stuff, and some of the things you guys are working on, and Product Hunt, for example. I love that because it's such an incubator of organizations like yours that are out there creating new things, and a lot of times when people create a product or a service, it's because of market demand for something. But like in your situation, your team has developed things that people didn't know that they needed yet. And once it was available, they're like, wow, we didn't realize we needed this.
Yeah, for sure. And like that's how the idea initially came along, because the original company that they had made was for helping people make an app. But then they realized, quizzes, calculators, chatbots, etc. is something everyone needs. So they just made a no-code builder that would allow anyone on the internet, whether they're freelancers, small businesses, content marketers from medium-sized businesses, or even enterprises, to easily just make this. And you mentioned Product Hunt, for instance. Like, we've had so many of our clients who made like quizzes or calculators or recommendations on Outgo. Like, for instance, like one client was a real estate client who wanted to sell his real estate properties and, to do good marketing around them. So what he did, and this was like in the 2010s when the Airbnb craze was like, off the charts, like, everyone was talking about Airbnb. It was like the hot startup and blah, blah, blah. So this person went on Outgrow and he made a simple calculator that would show people how much would it cost, how much would they earn by Airbnb their property. So this is a real estate agent, right? So he's not looking to rent properties, he's looking to sell properties, but he understood that if he could show all the property buyers that they could later Airbnb their properties, and then they don't have to live in those properties all the time. So that was something that helped his real estate company. So this calculator would just ask like simple questions like, where is your property located? Is it near a seaside? Is it near a World Heritage site? How many rooms does it have? How often do you want to host guests in it? And based on that, it would give you a monthly and yearly passive income that you could collect through Airbnb on these properties. And this calculator that our client had made, it went viral on Product Hunt. Like, it was in their top 10. And then it got picked up at trendhunter.com, et cetera, et cetera. And the key thing to learn from this is that what no-code tools allow you to do, no matter what industry you're in. I just gave an example for the real estate industry, but no matter what industry you're in, course making, podcasting, you can make an interactive quiz or calculator that you can put on your website. It's going to be there 24/7. And that quiz or calculator is giving a very definite value to the user. So they're very likely to leave their email behind that you can follow up with them, et cetera, et cetera. And you can lock this result, this value that you're giving, you can lock it behind a lead generation form where they ask you for an email, and then they're able to, like, you ask them for an email and then they're able to see the value that you're giving. So for instance, like for a podcaster, we've seen a lot of people make quizzes like, which one of my episodes is the most relevant for you? Like, they put this quiz on their website, or like, which one of my episodes will teach you about the skill you're looking for? And then they ask like 7 or 8 questions. And as like a podcast host, you would know exactly the kind of 7 questions to ask to direct people to the right episode. So that's one way in which a quiz can be used to like, give targeted value.
That's just, touching the iceberg too of, all the things that you can do. So of all the stuff that your team does, what's one of the, give me a couple that you enjoy the most or most proud of as far as development and work that you guys do at Outgrow?
I think it's the fact that we have the freedom to experiment with marketing trends. And I think that is crucial, because what happens a lot of time in companies is that people just get like, stuck to like a routine of doing things, whereas here we have more creative space. So one of the things we did was like, when coronavirus came along, just before the virus came, we were developing this interactive templates pack for the events management industry. So like, conferences and, corporate events. And then we had like all these interactive widgets and applets that anyone could customize in this. So for instance, which conference talk should you attend? Or like, if you're a sponsor, then, which event of ours should you sponsor, which panel should you sponsor, or like where should you be a speaker in, et cetera, et cetera. So all these quizzes and calculators, like a calculator, like, how much is it going to cost you to send your team to this conference in Barcelona, for instance, right? A return of investment calculator that would show you what is going to be the networking value, long-term value of attending a conference. So we had this entire pack and this entire universe of templates ready to be launched. And then coronavirus came along. So obviously there were no events scheduled for the upcoming, future. So we had to just put that entire package on hold. And this is the creativity in our company, is that, no one was like, disappointed that we couldn't launch this. We had the enough of like, flexible room to be like, okay, we can pause this. Eventually events are going to start again, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 3 years, conferences are going to exist and we can launch this pack then. But in the meantime, what we did was we launched a restaurant takeaway pack. So, what happened when coronavirus first came along was, all the restaurants were banned, but there was a loophole in the law, which was basically that if you're a takeaway joint, then you can, operate your business, but not if you're serving people in a terrace or a garden or like indoors, etc. So a lot of restaurants at that point had to make the decision to turn to, completely digital takeaway spots. And they didn't have the equipment. There were not enough developers in the market to help them do this, and it costs a lot. And the industry is anyway facing a lot of money shortage because it's being pounded by coronavirus, etc. So we made like a restaurant takeaway pack. So when you walk into a McDonald's restaurant, for instance, they have these screens with like takeaway menus where, you can pick the burger type, the bun type, the menu type, the sauce type, the lettuce type. Now, this is actually a quiz and a calculator, if you think about it, right? It's just asking you questions as to what you want, and then it gives you a customized pricing. So that's what we built for any kind of restaurant imaginable. So like for a pizza restaurant, or like for Indian food restaurant. So it's just, we made these interactive menu templates, and we were ranked one of the finalists in the Product Hunt Coronavirus Hackathon that happened for helping restaurants, during the Corona times with these interactive menus.
That's amazing work. And, that's just a couple things you guys are working on. So I guess the next question is, and this is a kind of a looking into the future kind of thing, where do you see internet usage and how we consume the internet? And I mean, all of the apps and everything else with, smartphones and everything else. But, where do you see things going over the next, maybe 5 years or so?
I think that's a really good question, because I think what's happening is that there's too much information. So what the age we are living in is classified, there's like the Bronze Age, Iron Age, Industrial Age. What we are living in right now is the information age. And the key characteristic of the information age is that it's not money that is power, it is information that is power. And this is a crucial thing to remember, especially because we are entering towards the late half, or like I'll say towards the end of this age. And now there's too much content. Everyone's producing too much content. There are too many blogs. Everyone has a great idea. There's too much information circling around. And so the users, or like, if someone goes on the internet and they want to buy a pair of sunglasses, for instance, like, they don't know what to pick because there's so many choices. There's like a complete choice paralysis, right? And the price wars from like companies like AliExpress, etc., has led to, goods being really cheap and really gettable. So like, what is my incentive to buy? And that's why I think interactive content is an answer to this entire choice paralysis and decision fatigue that we are seeing in this age, is because it helps the user make a choice, right? If I go on your website and you're selling sunglasses and you have a quiz like, which sunglasses suit you best, and that quiz actually sifts the data you give it, and then it gives you 2 or 3 choices to pick from, you're more likely to pick something. And that is why I think the future is basically going to be interactive, because as we hear in the news all the time, like, most companies using interactive content are also able to very easily gather marketing data and marketing information. Like, so when they ask you which sunglasses suit your face the best, they understand what, like, if 500,000 people take that quiz, they get an idea of like, what kind of sunglasses are fashionable amongst people. And then they can make their supply chain better, and they can order more that kind of, sunglasses instead of like, the ones that people don't like. So I think this is the future, is to use interactive content, because the static content is just too much and it leads to a choice paralysis.
I agree with you on the information overload. There's just so much out there. And for inventory, gone will be the days of you stocking up on all this stuff that ends up not being sold because consumers didn't want it. And you think about that from a global footprint type of situation, because if we're not mass producing something that no one will end up buying, that stuff could end up in a landfill, which of course pollutes our water, which, all the things we know about making the earth a much healthier place. When you have basically, the phrase just-in-time inventory, comes into play here. But because we're able to mass produce things, 3D printing, for example, I've seen, some of that stuff work and, get blown away by it, going, wow. It's like, there's, you type in, you put in this template and all this stuff and you do it. Next thing you know, you're holding this thing that didn't exist a few minutes ago. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's insane. And we're getting, as technology and advancements and curiosity continues to grow, I think that it bodes well for humanity and the future of things, and cutting back on wasteful things and having just the things that we truly want, and doing it in such a way where it has such a smaller footprint than how we've made things in the past.
For sure. I think that's literally the goal of the information age, is to make things smoother and reduce wastefulness. And that is going to be the key theme as we go forward in technology and in other parts in politics. Everywhere you see that theme happening. And that is why efficiency is something that is achieved through a Google search. For instance, it's a very efficient engine. And in the same way as a quiz. So these are very basic, I think, fundamental human instincts. It's like to quiz, to be curious about something, to search about something, and then, to calculate, what is, like, through a calculator or an estimator that makes you understand the long-term value of something, infographically. When you use a calculator, you can show people infographically what is the long-term value of investing in their service, as opposed to something that's cheap and, you just, there's not much long-term value. So yeah, quizzes, calculators, contests, chatbots, polls, forms and surveys. These are all methods with which one can make one's company more efficient.
So a follow-up question of that is, what are some things that you wish were out now, but they aren't yet? As far as, obviously we've talked about the quizzes and interactivity and all that stuff. What are some things that you thought we would have by now, but we don't yet when it comes to innovation and technology?
I think widespread use of no-code tools, because I don't think anyone who's we serve 31 different industries: finance, healthcare, insurance, content creation, all of them. If there's anyone listening to this podcast and they have a business that is, they're a freelancer, or they're a medium-sized business, or they're a large business, or even if they're an enterprise, there's no reason they should be afraid of expressing, they are where they are in their business because they had some kind of skill or creativity or innovation that they brought to their field, and that's why their business exists today. And there's no reason that their innovation shouldn't be expressed to the world just because they don't know how to code, right? Coding is not an important thing anymore, and that's something that I think everyone should realize, is that everyone should be using no-code tools like Outgrow, and there are many other no-code tools. You should be using these more, because the market does not favor people who can code. The market favors people who are creative and innovative and who can just use no-code tools to express this innovation and creativity, right? The market favors creativity. It does not favor someone being a great coder like, Mark Zuckerberg or someone, right? That's just one particular skill set that you can just hire. And no-code tools just allow you to just bypass that skill set and make something good. And that's what you can do. So if you go to the Outgrow.co template section on our website, you would see more than 1,000 templates that you can just edit in a minute, under a minute, like a PowerPoint presentation. And then you can just put on your website. You can test it out if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, try another template. It's totally possible to do all that within 30 minutes.
That is awesome. And I definitely implore and encourage people to take advantage of that and play around with it. Get creative. And, you might see something that you can add to your site as an entrepreneur that your customers and potential customers will really enjoy, and you won't have to, spend billions of hours to try to figure out how to use it, because, that's what your team's done already. They've spent a bunch of time on there working on things that you enjoy doing to make things easier for those that want to do some things, and sometimes they feel that they have to learn all kinds of special coding when your technology proves that they don't have to, which is awesome. So, Zach, I've loved our conversation today. Where can people find out more about you and this incredible work you're doing?
Well, so everyone can claim a 30-day extended free trial by just going to outgrow.co/breakfast. And that will open up a page for you where you can just claim an extra, 30-day trial where you can just, try out all the templates as much as you like, see if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, then it's just a trial, right? So nothing to lose. So outgrow.co/breakfast.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have that in the show notes. So thank you so much again for your time today. And thank you and your entire team for continuing to innovate to make life easier and more accessible to all of us. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Breakfast Leadership Show, part of the Breakfast Leadership Network. Visit breakfastleadership.com for tips on empowering your business and your life.